and I see a one around. Oh, wow. You had to explain it to me.
Yeah, but it's solid.
Yeah, it was pretty solid. It was pretty
So, Dennis, how you doing, man? Another week, another recording.
The sun is shining.
The sun is on your face.
In my
This only happens in like November.
Office window, yes. And worked outside when the sun was out. It was lovely. It was snowed last night here.
Did it really?
We had a half-inch of snow on my porch roof till midday. The windshield was covered with snow.
Nice.
And it led me to use the day to get my snowblower ready. That's the way it should work.
Okay.
Right?
Explain.
It started to snow. Get it ready. I got it all ready except it wouldn't start. But I had it tipped for a long time, so I suspect I flooded it. Shined it up, cleaned it up. Hey, so guess what I found wound around the till of the snowblower, the rubber tills that spin around below the snow. There was a article of clothing that was caught in the spinning thing that I had to take out with a pair of pliers. It took a half hour.
Either glove or a sock.
No. One more guess. If you don't get the guess, you got to pay me $5. If you do get the guess, I pay you $5.
Your underpants.
Oh my God.
I don't know what you do with your snowblower.
Judges come in. Oh, here's what the judge's dilemma is. It was, in fact, a pair of underpants, but they weren't mine.
Your wife's.
You wish.
What have you been doing?
So my neighbor came over, and one of her boys, she's got three wonderful boys, three boys. And I said, oh, look what I found in my lawnmower. And I held up the band, right, with just a hunk of cloth hanging from it. And I looked at him and I said, are you missing a jock strap? And his mother quickly
Always
said,
a good sentence.
His mother quickly said, he doesn't wear a jock strap. As if to say, his testicles haven't fallen yet. He's still too young. I wish it hadn't gone in that direction, because now that's all I can think of. Oh, I have to get over.
Your neighbor's son's unfallen testicles are in your mind.
No, the fact that I was stupid enough to say that's it. I say a lot of stupid things. It's kind of what I do.
Episodes devoted to that. Your neighbor's son's underpants somehow got into your snowblower?
Somebody's underpants got in the snowblower and wound that goddamn elastic thread all through the axle. I had to take it off. I had 3 tools. I had a puncture tool, I had a big knife, and I had a pair of needle nose pliers, which I'm sure you know what they look like.
Oof. I use needle nose pliers all the time.
I have 3 pair. The tips are all different on the 3 pair.
Of course.
Yeah.
More needly or less needly?
Both, in either direction, since there's 3.
Exactly.
How'd you do in your homework?
Before we get to my homework, I also did some housework this weekend.
Cool. Tell me about it.
We took all of Saturday and we went out to furniture stores to try and figure out what sort of furniture, because we're to the point where we're about to paint and redo our floors in our house and put proper furniture.
In your original apartment?
Yeah, because our youngest is 8 years old and is no longer going to pee on the sofa. And so we've been saving for 15 freaking years to actually buy good furniture. And also, we need a way to organize my son's room that used to be my office, because it's a really awkwardly shaped room. And we need to figure out how we're going to potentially do that. And so we went to this furniture store. And before we went, I went and I measured and drew a little diagram of the whole room. And I measured all the walls and all the little angles and weird, because it's a super weird fucking room. And so we went to this place.
Did you do it to scale?
No, I didn't. I attempted to, but it wasn't really to scale. But so we went to this place and we started talking to this woman, and she showed us a couple things, and I showed her my drawing, and she said, wait a second, give me that drawing and I'll come back to you in 15 minutes. And 20 minutes go by and we go to meet her, and she has actually drawn it to scale on like graph paper and has done it like actually properly.
Expertly.
And she said, these are the ways we could put the bed over here or the bed over here, in which case the wardrobe would be here, or otherwise the desk would be here and the wardrobe would be here, and worked out all of the possible scenarios. And then there was one thing that we had trouble visualizing, and so she pulled out another piece of graph paper and drew the like 3D projection of the room as I had drawn it, to show where the bed would be, like in a beautiful 3D way that it just blew my mind.
With her hand on paper?
With her hand on paper with pencil. No, pencil and paper.
How strange is that to today's day and age?
Yeah, like she was just like, here, this, and this would go over here, and she drew these
How old is she?
boxy 3D things. She's probably 60.
That's why.
Yeah. And
perfect.
But it was perfect, and it explained what she wanted to explain, and I was just blown away. And so she gave us these 2 different designs and then said, hold on, give me 10 minutes, I'll calculate all the prices for this particular room setup. And she did. and came back to us and it gave us that, and then also gave us some other suggestions for other stuff. And it was just a really fruitful trip to a store.
Yeah.
And for sure, I want to give her as much of our money that we can. But as it turns out, when we got back home and we evaluated her designs, she hadn't taken into account the light from the window. And she had done some designs that covered up the window light in a way that that's when we actually took a dummy piece of furniture, like we took a wardrobe that we have emptied and like we're dragging it around to put it where the wardrobe she suggested would be, and we saw how the shadows were, and we figured out an even better design than she had done. But again, she was working on this top-down god level view of the room. But I was so impressed that, first of all, that someone would care enough to like do this, but she clearly is the type of person that enjoys that kind of Tetris-y puzzle of putting things together. And so that was really cool. And then we went to some other stores.
Oh yeah, okay.
I mean, that
but they didn't do the shit she did.
No, they didn't. But right after we spoke to her, we went out and we had lunch, and we just found this little hole in the ground tavern that was just amazing. Like the food was fantastic, and like everything on the menu, like I wanted one of everything on the menu when I saw the menu because it was just delicious looking, and it lived up to our expectations. I had to return the bill twice because they weren't charging us for all of the stuff that we bought.
Huh. Is this in town, or where did you drive?
No, this was in a nearby town, but like nearby 30 minutes away.
What's the name of it?
Of the town?
Yeah.
Solaris.
Solaris, the sun.
Yes, they're famous. That name, for anyone in Spain, will know that name because in that town they have a bottled water plant, and they make bottled water called Solaris that is popular throughout Spain. But this particular little town, that like they have bottled water and furniture. In that town is where I bought my desk and my chair, actually, from a different place.
And is it bigger than the town?
Similar or smaller, maybe 5,000 people is my guess.
What was the name of the restaurant?
Somebody's Tavern. The original tavern or something, I don't know. It's only open Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from noon to 2:30 p.m.
2:30 in the afternoon?
Yeah.
It's only open 2.5 hours a day?
3 days a week, yes.
That's it?
It's open 7.5 hours a week, yes. And
because the owner runs it and cooks.
Yeah. The owner, there were several waiters, but the cook, I think his name was like Kini or something, Kini, and he was the cook and the guy that gave us our first beer when we got there. But it was fantastic. And
so how wonderful it was to hit them at the right time when you didn't even know about it.
Exactly.
I mean,
that's just
you didn't have a
serendipity.
real big window. It was what a great lucky day to fall into that.
Yeah, and as soon as we left the furniture store, we immediately thought, we should have asked this really helpful lady a good place to eat around here. But we were too self-conscious to go back in and ask, so we just wandered to the nearest place, and it happened to be this place. It was fantastic.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Well, that's fun. That's great.
And then, that was on Saturday. And then on Sunday, I was given the go-ahead to move some shelves that were on my wall in my old office to my daughter's room. And that involved quite a bit of screwdriver work, but also I had to drill. There were 3 shelves, and there were 8 holes each. So I had to drill 24 holes. And then we decided that we actually didn't want them where I had hung them, so I had to move them again. So 24 holes.
Oh.
But by the end of the day, I was very confident with the drill.
How did that happen?
Yeah. So it was either, do we center them with the desk or do we put them against this edge of the wall? And we initially thought centered, but the way the desk is an L shape, when it's centered with the desk, it doesn't feel centered with where you're sitting at the desk. Anyway, I was just following orders. I was doing whatever I was told. And,
I know nothing.
But I got to drill a bunch of holes, and then I got to hang my guitars again, finally one on each side, the way that should be. And
did you use electric screwdriver?
So I had an electric screwdriver, just a cheapo electric screwdriver that I got from IKEA 8 years ago, we'll say, that like charges with a special cable that I've long since lost. And it had enough charge to do some screwing and unscrewing. But then towards the end, I was using the drill to do some of the screwing. But I did quite a bit of hand screwdrivering.
That's awful.
Which is, and my screwdriver.
It's blister inducing.
Yes, and my screwdriver is like my golf clubs. Like the rubber is like tearing off because I've had this particular screwdriver for 18 years.
Right.
But you
got it done.
I got her done.
And that's on walls that are about to be painted?
Yes, the shelves are on walls that will be painted. The guitars are on walls that were painted already.
Are they removable?
It's this cool IKEA technology where you screw on these metal...
strips.
No, it's a metal thing with poles that stick out that like then go into the wood. So there's holes in the wood, and you slide them onto these metal poles, and it looks like the wood is just like floating against the wall.
Real heavy metal
Yeah.
rod.
Yeah. So such that you don't see how they are attached. It just looks like there's wood coming out of the wall in this clever way.
And isn't there a vertical brace?
Nope. It's just the weight is all on this.
How do you fix the rod to the wall?
The rod to the wall is there's a strip of steel, and then the two rods come out from that.
And
They're welded on.
There's nothing vertical about it. It's all horizontal.
Yes, the vertical part
How
is the
many
strip.
screws go in the frame that hold the rods? Hold that in.
I put 8. There's room for
I
10.
would figure that. And how many rods are there?
2.
Just 2.
It's
For how long? 3 feet?
It's 110 centimeters, so 4 feet.
4 feet. And how thick is the wood? More than an inch.
Yeah. It's like this, like fake light wood. It's 2 inches. 5.
What do you mean fake? Is it chipped wood?
Yeah, you pick it up and you're like, this should not be this light if it was real wood.
Right.
Like it's all filled with foam or whatever.
So it's a faux shelf.
Faux shelf.
Faux shelf. Interesting. And
Faux shelf or yo
strength, the strength of the shelf is what?
I wouldn't climb on top of it.
No, 40, 50 pounds.
But I have had a lot of boxes full of crap on them for 10 years.
It'll say right on the package what the strength is.
Well,
It's an absolute piece of data that you'll see on the packaging. But my guess would be 40, 50 pounds, maybe more.
I put a bunch of weight on there and left it there for 10 years, and it's just fine.
That reminds me of the idea I had for the back fence. I think I told you that I added to the 4x4 post, I added a 6x4. So now I have a 10 by 6 double post, 10 inches, 10 inches thick. It's a pretty damn thick post. So I'm going to take a drill and drill a hole in there the size of about a 50-cent piece. And with that hole 10 inches in, I'm going to attach a piece of wood that's 24 or a steel post, what you're talking about, real heavy steel. It's actually not the size of a half dollar, it's the size of a quarter. And when that goes 10 inches in, there's only 14 inches remaining that are showing. And against them, instead of a wooden, because the posts are 10 feet apart, that's a big gap. That's a big length of wood.
Yeah.
It's too big. I'd have to have shelving like what you're talking about, which gives me an idea.
You're welcome.
Yeah. But one idea is just to use metal and lay the metal shelf over the metal, because it's going to hold plants. It's wood. It's going to get a lot of water on it too. So if you're using wood, it can warp.
Right.
I haven't found the metal I want yet. I'm thinking of a metal, like, do you know what, when you're painting and working with carpentry outside and you have
which I often do, yes.
You have 2 ladders, and over the cross of the ladders is the board that opens up like an accordion. No, this way.
Okay.
And back in the day, it was wood. And so when you pulled it out, it could get not twice its length because you had to have an overlap of at least a couple of feet. But there's a word for that, and I'm drawing a blank on what the word is.
Extendable plank.
But yeah, that's cool. You're giving me a great idea of how to do that.
Yeah. So that was a lot of fun. It's always my level of handiness around the house is about to that level of drilling holes and screwing things in. However, we did move a bookcase from one apartment to the other, and I need to cut a little bit more of a notch out so that it could fit up against the molding in the other house properly at the back. And luckily, I have a handy neighbor friend that I can just go to and be like, hey, can I borrow your saw for 30 minutes?
Yeah.
And because we've been over this, but fucking tools should be communal. We all need a hammer sometimes.
I think when you get into power equipment, I agree. I think, in fact, we do all need a hammer.
I use a hammer 3 times a year.
Oh, is that true? I
Yeah.
use a hammer 3 times a week.
Okay, you're a hammerologist.
I'm a handy hammer man.
You've got hemorrhoids.
Look what I have right here. Look at that. See, that is a screwdriver that you put in your pocket like it's a pen.
Yep, I've seen those.
See, that's how handy I am. A guy is handy when he wears a screwdriver in his pocket like a pen. Huh?
It's like business casual, but also blue collar.
Worker, blue collar casual.
There you go. Blue collar casual. I like it. We could start our own.
Hey, you remember the prison up in Oregon that was, like a lot of prisons, manufacturing their own prison clothes. So they had shirts like this, denim shirts, and also denim jeans. And they ended up marketing the jeans for the free world, calling them Prison Blues.
Clever.
And, oh yeah,
Good name.
There's this particular cut of a pair of prison pants that remind me of almost a pair of Navy pants, Navy jeans, if you know
Right.
what those look, but not the big bell bottoms. But hey, I saw a movie I wanted to tell you about. Speaking of sailors, it's Chris Helmsworth in a take on Moby Dick called The Men in the Sea, or can't remember exactly what, but it is one of my favorite actors who you recall from this Gangs of New York, the dude who played the
Daniel Day-Lewis?
No,
In the Heart of the Sea.
yes, the dude who played the barber, who ended up being all full of hubris, and then the butcher just came and fucking killed him with a fucking club. Just
Yes.
Gleason.
Brendan Gleeson as Tom
And
Nicholson.
his son is an actor we've spoken about, but he is in this, and I feel this way, the best role I've ever seen him in. The best I've ever, and his acting, I don't know, you can check. He must have got a supporting actor a nomination for this movie. It's a couple of years old, I think. But I was intrigued by it. It was interesting to see. One of my favorite movies of all time is My Name is Ishmael, and Gregory Peck played Captain Ahab. And of course, that's the whole movie. But now, with the amazing technology that they have to splice reality with this, it's astounding. And it's so recent that to me, it's still easy to see when it's absolutely
It's still we're not there yet where it's you can't tell. We're getting super close though.
Of course, when you see a long distance shot of a horizon and ships out in the ocean and something that you just know is computer animated, because it is, you notice that it is. And
True.
If you were a kid who was like, how young do you have to be to not know what I'm talking about here? 10?
10, yeah.
Right? 10?
My 8-year-old would not consider that this wasn't real.
There you go.
Would.
Perfect. But this movie is not a movie for 8-year-olds.
Okay.
It's and the actor who plays Mr. Joy, you will recall him from
Cillian Murphy.
one of the Batman movies, not the Captain, Mr. Joy.
He's the Peaky Blinders lead character, I think, which I've not watched. There's a TV show called Peaky Blinders that I watched one episode of and wasn't really pulled in.
Well,
But yes,
this is the best I've seen of him as well. And kudos to the makeup people for Mr. Joy. I don't know I've ever seen anything as realistically grotesque as this man as he was about to die. And he acted the shit out of it. Oh, my God. And
Right.
Chris Helmsworth was just obviously outdone in this scene where this guy is dying, and the emotion he was able to pull up was not appropriate. But I don't want to slam Chris Helmsworth because it's a great movie, but I'm not sure. I don't think that he has the breadth that Hugh Jackman might have brought to it. Or
a lot on his abs.
this movie, he's not. It is barely important at all that he's such a handsome man. It actually supports his protagonist, the captain, adversarial relationship, because the captain is not such a handsome man and is not so virile and physically able. And there's a scene that I love where, let's see, Mr. Chase is the Chris Helmsworth character. Mr. Chase, he's the first mate, and there's a sail way up high. I think it's what do they call it? A turnstile, and they want it to drop. And the captain wanted it to drop, and blah, blah, blah. And so it got stuck. So Mr. Chase, barefoot, of course, dashing, of course, literally scampers up the rope ladder, bypasses the guy who's trying to fix it, pulls out a knife, holds it in his teeth, hangs practically upside down, slices the rope, the flag unfurls, and he slides down the rope and lands on the deck. And the men are all watching, and the captain's watching. And one of the men says, "Good job, Mr. Chase. There's some good seaman there." And it was just later that as that happened, the captain glanced at him and looked down at the floor as if ashamed that he didn't have such amazing skills, and also perhaps ashamed of his jealousy, which showed itself in the next scene. Started in the darkened chambers in the captain quarters with the ship creaking and moving and quiet, but moving and creaking. And they're having dinner. And Mr. Joy, who is the second mate, and Mr. Chase and the captain are eating. And the captain gives a pokes the bear with Mr. Chase and tells Mr. Joy that his father went to prison, and that Mr. Chase was basically an orphan and grew up on a farm eating corn and eating beans. And Mr. Joy says everyone comes to the sea for a different reason, and it's best to leave most questions alone to the captain.
Good.
And but then Mr. Chase looks at the captain and says, I did this and I did that, and it ain't the first time that some, basically in my words, some overrated, born into a family of seamen accused me of being a lander.
A lander.
Yeah, a landsman, not a sailor, a landsman. And it was brought on, of course, by his incredible show of sailor skill. And so the tension begins. And it is the underlying character current in the movie. These guys fucking hate each other, but they're going to get 200 barrels of fucking oil. And guess who they come across? Guess who the fuck they come across? 1,000 miles from land.
Captain Hook. Oh no, Moby Dick.
Not known as Moby Dick in this movie because, as it turns out, Herman Melville, who interviews the boy who was in the boat, who was one of only 4 survivors, who was 14 years old at the time. Oh my God, you're pouring a lot. What the
Keep going with your story.
What the hell, man?
Your story's interesting, and I want to keep hearing it.
That's a deep pour, man. All right.
Hey, man, you go to the bar and you're like, fingers, and I'm like, I'm stay home and don't have my own fingers.
So it's just it's a great thing to watch, and I've seen pieces of it before. I haven't watched the whole thing, so I watched the whole thing. So that was fun.
Nice.
That was fun. So your homework. Let's hear it. What have you done? You lazy piece of shit. What have you done?
Man, I wish I had enough time to watch as much TV as some people do, but I made an effort and I avoided spending time with my family so that I could watch American Rust. I think I made it through 7. 8 is the last one.
No, 9 is the last one. I saw 8 last night.
Okay, I've made it through 7, I think. And it's when I'm watching it, sometimes I feel like, why am I watching these people, these miserable people? Like, they're all suffering. Not one of them is a hero. Not one of them is they're all just struggling to do their best, which I guess is true of all of us. But it's just trouble after trouble. And
that's an interesting question. So is anybody not miserable? I know who's not miserable. Jesus' mother.
Who's Jesus?
The drug dealer.
You don't think she's miserable?
No. In her cabin, out in the woods, watching television? No. You know why?
I think she's worried about her son.
No, she's not. She has no idea. She's senile. Happy as a clam.
Okay, fine. Sure. The friend that Isaac makes on his journey, she's troubled in her own way, but she's chipper. Like, I'm happy when she's on this.
She's chipper till she's not.
Right. But yeah, the whole... Before this, were you aware of the hanky code?
No.
Not at all.
Were you?
Yes, I've read about it, and I've listened to a podcast that described that this is a very common thing because in Protestant, in America, where being gay has historically been seen as very bad, it's hard for gay men to have any sort of interaction. And I think in the 80s, it's got to be in San Francisco, but they came up with this code of putting a handkerchief in your pocket, and each color meant a different thing that you either wanted to do to someone or wanted them to do to you. And it's super well known. I'm sure there's a document online that I'll probably search for and put in the show notes. But I found that interesting that they used this particular device, and it works well as a plot device, like that. They're desperate for money and they're willing to steal and also are in trouble. And also the plot point of do I go to jail for something that my friend did to protect me?
What is the stretch of loyalty? Exactly.
That's the main question of this series that I've seen. Then there's the whole like opium epidemic and how shitty that is.
It is in fact a sad fucking testament. And with that established, which for me, as we talked before, does not diminish for me my enthusiasm for a movie that makes me feel terrible, as this one does throughout it. It's painful. But here's the thing. It's painful because the actors are acting with such authenticity. It's astounding to see it.
Yes.
And I am so fucking impressed with the dude who plays Billy that I can't begin to tell you.
Yeah.
And it only gets I think you must be on more like episode 6.
No, he's in prison already.
Okay. Okay. And let me ask you a question. What is the status of the lead actress's name is in the movie is what?
Billy's mother.
Billy's mother.
Yeah.
What is the status of her house in the last episode you saw?
Her car has been destroyed, but her house is still there.
Okay. So you're at...
and
okay.
She's doing this union organizing. And
you're at 7. You're at 7. I've seen 8.
Right.
And I believe there's 9.
Okay.
And I can tell you this, that as much as it seemed increasingly desperate on virtually everybody's part, because not only is it all sad and like really bad shit happening to people,
like we need some redemption somewhere.
That badness escalates for every single fucking character.
Yeah.
And by the time you get to 8, it like, who is going to fucking explode first? With one exception, which I'll keep to myself for now. But anyway, what critique the acting? Do you agree with what I'm saying about Maura Tierney and Jeff Daniels?
Good call on the names. Yes, they're fantastic. Like, I forget that I'm watching actors, but and they do such an amazing job of representing this desperation, because that's what they have in this little town. It's moving
toward fucking chaos.
Right. But like, how can there be resolution? Because it's just everyone's life is shit.
I'm not expecting resolution. I'm expecting endings.
Like deaths?
I'm expecting devastation. I'm expecting endings.
Because
I don't know that
your typical the way you tell a story is you start out and you paint the scene, and then you introduce conflict, and then you have resolution. But this particular storyline has been, okay, here's a bunch of miserable people. A murder happens, and everyone is still miserable and getting more miserable. And here we are at the end, and it's just, okay, is this chord going to resolve or not? So
right. I enjoyed it. I enjoy it every time I see it. I also saw the second episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm, which, I got to tell you, it's 13 seasons now, and Larry David is the single most insufferable human being on the face of the planet. He has this, and I tell you, it's remarkable because it is, I've never missed an episode, and wow. There's never been an episode that I haven't enjoyed. And he is the least enjoyable character ever created. And in his insufferability is the comedy in the movie. And the writers are just so kind of, well, it's him and others. It's so crazy. But that's homework for you. I'm sure you haven't caught up with the new season. I'm sure you haven't even started it.
I've watched a little bit of Curb Your Enthusiasm from like way back when. But last week I stumbled upon a YouTube video that was an interview with Jason Alexander talking about the moment when he realized that his character Costanza, George Costanza, was Larry David. Uh-huh. Like it took him like 7 episodes before he realized that, oh wait, this writer that is writing these ridiculous things about me. The example he gave in Seinfeld, George quits his job in a real fit. It's just fuck all you guys are the worst. Fuck all you guys. And then he comes home and he realizes, what have I done? Oh my god. And then I guess Jerry or Kramer tells him, look, just go in on Monday like nothing of that ever happened, and just be like, what, you thought I was serious? And apparently this actually happened with Larry David. He quit his job on SNL. There's just this big ass fit of just, I hate all you guys, Lauren is the worst. And then he went back the next Monday and was just like, yeah, I'm here again. Oh, you thought that was real? Oh. Which is just that level of neuroticism that Jason Alexander realized embodied his character.
That's interesting, which means that George Costanza was the first Larry David, now writ large in Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yes, but he specifically said that there are 2 parts to Larry David. There's I forget exactly what he said, but it was something like, there's the ridiculous anxiety part, and then there's the egotistical I'm better than everybody part. And and that George Costanza was the first anxiety part, and that the Larry David on the Larry David show is the I'm better than everybody part.
Right.
And
my favorite character, bar none, which I can never, there is nothing he says that I don't laugh about. Nothing. Is J.D. Smoove. And he's Larry's roommate. What's his name? God, why don't I know this? 13 seasons and I don't know the character's name. What's wrong with me?
You don't need to when you're consuming.
Find it for me. It drives me crazy. Find it for me. You're quick. J.D. Smoove.
J.B. Smoove. B.
J.D.
B.
J.B. Smoove.
Leon,
of course. He's just fucking hilarious. And every other word is motherfucker. The second episode of this season, he is so hilarious, and the plot line that's going on with him for episodes 1 and 2 so far, and will probably continue, is that he's won a trip to go to Asia. No, he's paying for a trip to go to Asia, and he was taking his girlfriend, and she walked into a glass wall, and when she did and knocked herself down, he said, "It'll never be the same again. I can't see her sexually anymore because she's that stupid. She would walk into a glass wall." And so he gets rid of her, and he says, "So I have to have another girlfriend." And Larry David says, "But you have a ticket in her name." He said, "I'm going to find someone
with her name.
It's going to be what's Kathy Sturgis or something, like Kathy Sturgis 2. And so he has tryouts, and it's set up in Larry David's house like a studio having tryouts. Something Maguson, I think this.
With all the people named that.
Yes,
LA
you all show up, and then he interviews them, and he asks the stupidest questions that are so obvious. It's hilarious. It's some of the best comedy writing anywhere.
Yeah, I need to get into.
I just never stop laughing, and it's so fucking outrageous. And because I'm watching the words in the script below, it's always interesting because they tell you they give you the words of the background music, but when it's introduced in the scene, they tell you who's playing and what the name of it is. You would never know that, of course, otherwise.
Right.
And I really appreciate that. But yeah, so you had other home.
I did some Halloween activity. For those of you that would like to learn about Dennis's haunted house antics, you could go back to, I don't know, episode 30 or something, where he talked about all that.
Oh, really?
You talked about all your haunted house
back in Jackson,
stuff.
Michigan? Yes,
yeah.
At the haunted theater.
But so after our hard day's work of drilling all the holes and putting up all the shelves on Sunday, we carved some pumpkins, which was lovely with my kids.
Oh yes,
I wasn't going to. I sort of thought, maybe my kids are too old for this or something. And I asked the kids, I said, "So do you guys want to carve pumpkins this year or not?" And they were like, "Yeah, of course we do." Yeah. So we did that. That was fun. And then, as I mentioned last episode, because I'm still in the process of editing it because I had a busy weekend, you may recall that I wanted to show my kids The Sixth Sense.
Yes.
And I was able to show my daughter, 12 years old, and she sat through the whole thing with me and was creeped out in the way that, like, the music tells you when to be creeped out. But then at the end, on the final reveal, like, I wanted to show her this before she got it spoiled. Because that's a movie that if you have had it spoiled before you see it, it's ruined.
It's ruined.
But after you've seen it, watching it again is also really interesting, because they do this thing where every time there's an interaction between the afterlife and life, there's a red object in the screen. There's a red doorknob, or there's a red box, or there's a red coat or something. And so anyway, we watched the whole thing, and we got to the end, and we got all the way to the credits, and I asked her, "So what just happened?" And she didn't really understand. Like, she didn't understand that spoiler, he was dead the whole time. And so then I said, "Okay, look, I'm going to explain this to you, and then we're going to go back and watch the last 5 minutes together, and then you're going to see why this was true." And so we did that, and she was just like, "Oh my God, this is the most amazing thing I've ever, oh my, wow, like, how could that have been?" Just she's 12, and just experiencing this, whoa, like, they tricked us the whole time, like the thing that we all experienced the first time we saw that movie. So
is that one of Bruce Willis's best?
Bruce was at his prime. He was at his most handsome.
He underplays it so nice.
He still had hair, and
he did not.
There was quite a bit of hair.
That's not his hair.
Okay, sorry.
You silly goose.
But
He's been bald since he was 29.
okay. Anyway, sorry.
But it's a tribute. It's a tribute to the hairdresser that you say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Jesus Christ, Haley Joel Osment.
Have you seen him lately?
He built that movie. I know that he's 30 now, and I've seen.
He weighs like 300 pounds.
He's okay, but like
big boy.
that movie rested upon him, upon
Yes.
that character, believing and creeping you out by being scared and crying at the right time. And
Do you remember the other movie that he was in immediately after that? Play It Forward.
Pay It Forward. Yeah, that's we've seen that as a family.
That
Yeah.
was amazing.
Yeah,
That was
Helen
amazing.
Hunt. Yes,
And put him in the chronicles of all time.
child actors.
Yes, yes. And also AI,
True.
starting that with Jude Law, who was
Fan of the show.
fucking unbelievable. That plot line was great. It did it. The dude we just talked about, Gleason, wasn't he in that as one of the carnival people? Or no? I think he was.
Gleason, we just talked about.
The Gleason we talked about he was in The Heart of the Sea, and
I know him from Braveheart. He was the redhead guy in Braveheart.
he was the father. No, he was the son. His father was a hell of a character. He's the dude who they had the rock throwing, the stone
Yes.
throwing contest in the beginning. Gleason, and then we
He
talked
wasn't.
about this.
He wasn't AI. Well done.
He was the ringleader in the ring in the circus.
Okay, well done. That's crazy that you know that. Yeah. So The Sixth Sense was wild, and she was okay with the whole. Like, there's just a tiny bit of creep factor of someone reaching out from under a bed to grab your ankle or something. But in general, that movie is not as I suspected. That's why I chose it. It's not. It presupposes the existence of ghosts, but it doesn't show you all that much. Like the fact that he knows that his school used to be used as a place to hang people during the revolution because he's in Philadelphia.
That was some scary shit.
That
was unsettling.
But at first, when you don't know what his powers are, and the teacher asks, "Who knows what this building was used for a long time ago?" and he raises his hand and says, "This building was used to hang people," and his teacher is like, "No, I don't know where you got that information, but no." He says, "Yeah, they dragged people in here and hanged them." And his teacher, "I don't know, no, not really." But that level of
Remember, his teacher got all nervous and crazy.
well, because he knew. Damn, your memory is amazing. Your memory, it just blows my mind. I wish I had that sort of memory. But he had spoken to a classmate of his teacher's that had died in a theater fire before, and so he knew that his teacher's nickname back when he was a student was Stuttering Stanley, and he kept saying Stuttering Stanley, Stuttering Stanley, Stuttering Stanley, and his teacher, who hadn't stuttered in a long time, started to be like, "You just stop that," and that sort of, because at that point in the movie you don't know what this kid's supernatural ability is.
No.
And
all you know is that he's tied in, and the plot line of him being connected to the dead is such a riveting plot line in and of itself, let alone, as it turns out, because he is fucking dead.
Yeah.
Or who is dead? Bruce Willis was dead. Or were they both dead?
Bruce. Only.
Bruce was dead. How did he die? Oh, he was shot.
He was shot by an old patient who had grown up, and
yes, the tape recording. Oh, I remember those tape recordings were so terrible.
And
oh my
he
God,
found this old tape recording
provoking, and you just knew. It reminded me of it. There's a scene in the pic that Robin Williams starred in where he played a aspiring doctor who ended up becoming a doctor, Patch Adams.
Patch Adams, yeah.
And in there's a madman who ends up killing Patch Adams' long sought after and hard-earned a girlfriend who was just perfectly played. And in the scene, when you fucking know that he's going to fucking kill her, when she goes to his house in a storm, talk about fucking standard kind of plot shit. I mean,
right.
In a fucking rainstorm, and he says, "Come on in, let me take your coat." And the door closes, and that's it. The next cut is when people discover that she's dead. That's it. And it's as fucking horrifying as the fucking shower scene in fucking Psycho.
Right. You don't have to show it. You have to imply it, which is like.
Have you seen the movies? There's several movies about Hitchcock, 2 movies at least about Hitchcock. One is played by the British actor who just won Academy Award for Best Actor, drawing a blank, and the other one is oh shit, why am I drawing a blank on both of these actors' names? But two movies about Hitchcock, each of which is just absolutely riveting, and each of which puts into perspective something I had no idea about, which was how much his wife was the genius, the brains behind the genius. And I was so riveted by learning this, which the one biopic did a better job than the other on her role, that I went to his Lifetime Achievement role at the Academy Awards and watched him accept the award seated because he was ill and elderly, and hilarious, just absolutely hilarious, where he said, of course, he thanked Miriam and said, it's all due to her, which I didn't know that, number one, she did. I certainly didn't know that that's what he said too.
So many, like the outlet for women to get their creativity out into the world was through their husbands' names.
Yes.
Back then.
And the plot line in the one biopic, which has, oh shit, man, who's the actor who played Hannibal Lecter?
Yes.
What a dolt I am. So stupid. I've got like old timer. What?
Anthony
Hopkins. Yes, where he plays Hitch in this one, and none other than, look it up and look at the woman who plays, because she's one of the best actors of our time. Helen Mirren plays his wife.
Yep.
Mirren. And in that one, it tells the plot line of how Psycho at test audiences, it was an absolute bomb, and his wife completely recut it. And one of the arguments they had was about the music, and she just told Hitch to shut up, that the music was as much about building the tension as anything, and that music in Psycho, just so crazy. It was all her.
That was the thing that people didn't understand how music affected the viewing experience before that.
This is in the 50s.
This was so innovative to come to learn that you could, that, and they say, this is I'm going to go ahead and say this is a proven scientific fact, that if you're watching a scary movie, the way to not be scared anymore is to put your hands over your ears, to not hear the music.
Oh.
To not hear, because watching what is happening isn't scary.
It's not nearly.
It's the audio that is scary.
The other thing that she did, which is also stunning, is she created the marketing scheme where they went to the theaters, and Hitch was, as the previews were showing, he gave out a specific instructions about how there had to be security there, that they had to be on the ready for emergencies, because in other words, without ever saying so, it was so frightening that he was afraid of physical and mental health consequences. That was all her.
Clever.
And the lines to get into it, and they had the security there. And by the time that people were in it, they showed Hitch in the lobby when the shower scene, which he choreographed personally with the stabbing. That was him doing that stabbing. It was
sure
right that he did it. It was like ballet. That he was swirling and twirling to the music, and when the audience gasped, and absolute horror at was happening, the music to his ears, and how he wouldn't sit because he wanted to be privately being able to observe it and hear it. You'll like it. And none other than Scarlett Johansson playing, just fills up every screen, playing the character of the woman, one of Hitch's famous blonde women, who he was always in love with the actresses. In the one version, the one biopic had him like really fucking creepy. Really creepy. The second one, not so much.
Okay. I had a thing to say again about American Rust or something, but it's gone.
The prison stuff in American Rust is just...
Is that, does that feel
yes,
legit? All of it?
Yes, every bit of it. Every bit of it. I was in a situation where the camera that was in the hallway showing the prison cells, a row of prison cells, showed an open cell door that was opened off screen, and prisoners sneaking into the cell. And the next thing you saw was the prisoner's clothes being thrown out one at a time out into the hallway where he was assaulted. And
you saw this?
Yes. It was his sanctioned going away party.
Fuck. Sanctioned.
Who opened the door, of course. And the amazing thing about it is that it was all filmed, and all the correction officers knew that. Another film of a prisoner, and he is near the corner of a wall, two walls, a corner of a wall. And you can see his head and his body coming and going a little bit. And what I knew was that on the other side of that wall where you could not see was a kitchen worker who was performing fellatio on him, who was later helpful in his escape, for which felony she received a lengthy prison term.
Fuck.
It's a life, man. It's a whole world.
Yeah,
It's a
like
whole world.
the
It's a brutal world.
there's this thin line between the shitty life of the poor American no healthcare worker that's just trying to get by and is probably finding opioids to make it better. On the other side, like, it's such a thin line to cross over to the prison system where there's in theory fewer opioids, but you're also in like life is like. Speaking of dark stuff, I've been trying to get my daughter to start reading The Hunger Games. Have you read The Hunger Games?
Yeah, all of them.
Yeah, and
They're teenage books.
right, exactly. And she's 12, and I keep telling her, look, if you start, you'll get into it. But she's not big into reading in English. Like, her books, normally she reads in Spanish, but we have the English Hunger Games here, and she's tried it a couple times and says it's too hard. So over the past 2 days, I have read the first 2 chapters to her.
Oh, that's a nice way to go.
And to taunt her into, what could possibly happen here? And the first chapter goes all the way through where it describes both how proficient Katniss is at hunting and also how shitty life is in 12. And then in the second chapter, which I read for her today, is where they have the reaping, where they choose who goes. And I guess at the end of the first chapter, they chose her sister. And that was a cliffhanger. And then in the second chapter, like, they go through the rest of it. But it was like, she's very much hooked now and has read a couple pages. I hope she continues. But in the way that I knew that this would hook her, because I know her personality and I know that she loves this sort of thing. And I remember when I started reading the Hunger Games, where I was like, I couldn't put the book down. Like, I told people, go away, I'm reading, because I needed to finish. So that we'll check back in next week to see how well that has gone. But at the moment, I'm pretty pleased with how she feels.
The movie will assume she hasn't seen it yet.
Right, exactly.
The first movie, which is what you're describing in the screenplay, was particularly well done. Well done. And I'll talk about there are 3 movies. I'll talk about the other ones.
There's 4 movies, but because they split the third book into 2.
Oh.
Because more money.
Yeah. And there's a lot to say about how that evolved. Listen, man, I got to scamper, and I don't scamper much.
I don't want to say, when I was reading the part where everyone in District 12 were holding up their 3 fingers, I got very emotional, because that's just beautiful.
Yeah, I was hooked, and I'll talk about the third book at a later time. And I'll just say this, that I think that when you're doing a trilogy, that it's really hard to get the third one right.
Indeed.
I think it's really hard to get the third one right. And sometimes there's it seems to be a dynamic with the author that they want to outdo themselves. They want to go one step further, and rather than any other option. Now, and I will tell you that as I think about this, the final episode of Scenes from a Marriage was an example where that did not happen. It was actually, the future was all ratcheted down, and it wasn't exclamatory. And I think there's a tendency in trilogies are tough, particularly threequels in movies, but they're a completely different issue relative.
I think the video I was watching before I watched the one with Jason Alexander talking about Larry David was the one where they were all talking about how the finale was, like, they were the most watched show on TV and they chose to quit, and that the finale necessarily, despite the fact that the show was all about the mundane, they necessarily had to do something bigger in the final show, and that they also knew that no one would ever be satisfied with it. But yeah, the trilogy thing, we should have stopped at episode 3, but here we are on 32. Oops.
So 132 hours. Oh my God.
That's a lot of
What a
hours.
treasure trove of nothingness. What
What is Seinfeld?
What an absolute record of emptiness. Absolutely record devoid of anything of particular material interest.
Indeed. This is for
the tribute to the both of us.
our great grandchildren to
right.
discover these archives.
Our data showed an up and down trend. That's not.
Well, that's because I forgot to. I haven't
Oh, that's right. You skipped
released
it.
last episode because I'm stupid and I was busy and with family stuff.
This is still 132.
It is.
Because the 130 was called the unrecorded episode. Correct?
No.
129.
129. Well, no, 128 was the one. No, yeah, 129 was the one we didn't record. Yes.
You didn't skip the number.
I did skip.
No. You're not. No. We agreed you wouldn't skip. That you would name 120 something the unrecorded episode because we actually met for the 129th time or whatever.
No, hold on. So, we did 27, and then we did 128, but I forgot to record, and then we did 129.
So you didn't skip the number. You held the number true. There is the episode 128, it's just not recorded.
Yes.
Perfect. That's what I would expect. I would expect nothing less.
There you go. Expectation.
So,
yeah.
I wish that I knew more than just the first 3 words of any song.
Happy birthday to. Oh, fuck.
Hey man. Hey, we got a North Carolina trip lined up.
Do you?
Yeah, baby. First week of December. You could be like the Elvis Presley surprise guest.
Ain't gonna be there, pretty sure.
Yeah, I know.
We'll see.
All right. I'm out, Turkey Man.
Later, gobble gobble.
You are just so clever.
It's not even Thanksgiving yet. Come on. It's November.
It's Halloween, man.
Okay, that's it for episode number 132. I apologize for my voice. I have a little bit of a cold. You can find the show notes at happyhour.fm/132. You can help support the show at patreon.com/happyhour. We would really love that. And everybody stay safe out there. Be good. Be good to each other. We love you. We'll see you next week.